Hi and welcome to the channel. In this video I'm going to be sharing with you a rhythm guitar figure played by Johnny Cash's guitarist Luther Perkins. Luther Perkins had a great minimalistic way of playing rhythm guitar that's mostly based on the boom chick rhythm. This is one of those go-to rhythm guitar figures that professional guitar players use all the time, and it's something that every country and rockabilly guitar player should know. Stick around. Okay, before we get started, you're going to want to grab the notation, tab, and backing track for this lesson. Those are free and the link is down below. Also, if you get to the end of this lesson and you find you want to learn more of these go-to country guitar rhythms, I'll put a link to my course, 20 must-know country guitar rhythms, down below at a discount for you. And as always, the best way to show support to this channel is to hit the subscribe button. Now, you should know that a big part of Luther Perkins' sound was the fact that he played flat wound strings. It isn't really realistic for us to restring our guitar every time we want to access this sound. You know, we want the ability to play a wide range of sounds all the time if we're on a gig or a session, and flat wounds can be a little limiting. I'll be showing you a cheat code for getting this sound on your mainstay guitar, whatever that is. And at the end of the video, for all you purists, I'm going to run through Luther Perkins' guitar rig so you could recreate that if you want. All right, so this is a rhythm guitar approach that I think every country guitar player should know, but also every rockabilly guitar player should know. Johnny Cash in those early years when he was making recordings for Sun Records, in my opinion, is equally as much of a rockabilly artist as he is a country artist. I don't think he becomes purely a country artist until later on, and playing Johnny Cash covers is kind of a mainstay for rockabilly bands just as much as it is for country bands. I'll use this guitar figure either as is, or I'll use it as a template for adding variations, coming up with my own rhythm guitar part just by changing a couple little things around. Or I'll just take this concept that I'm going to break down for you and I'll use that to create a brand new rhythm guitar part. A lot of what Luther Perkins does as a rhythm guitar player is based on the boom chick rhythm. And this is where we have an alternating bass line between 99% of the time the root and the fifth. And then on the backbeats, we'll have a double stop. So I'm going to do this with an E-shaped F chord, root on beat 1, double stop on beat 2, fifth on beat 3, double stop on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's a boom chick rhythm. What Luther Perkins does is kind of trims the fat a little bit, and instead of playing a double stop on the backbeat, we're just going to play a single note. And I'm just playing the octave there, so I have root, octave, fifth, octave. And those are all quarter notes, so that fills up the measure 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, instead of playing all quarter notes, on beat 3, let's play eighth notes. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, we're almost there. Now we want to get that Luther Perkins tone. Remember, he's playing flatwounds, which gives you like a nice compressed, twangy sound. They're thumpy and kind of compressed and don't really like ring out that much. To get that on rounds, what we're going to do is change our pick placement. So instead of picking in the middle where I've been picking, I'm going to move my pick back right next to the saddles here. So the side of my pick is pretty much touching the saddles of the guitar. And that's going to change the tone a lot. I'm going to have way more tension back here. It's going to give me more of a bright, thumpy, kind of compressed, twangy sound. So much different than right, now we want to add in one more element here, and we're going to add some muting to beat 3, those eighth notes that we've been playing. So we can't palm mute that because our pick is back here right next to the saddle, so there's no way for us to use our palm for muting. So we have to use the fretting hand to mute those notes. So I'm going to do that by releasing tension in my fretting hand when I get to that C note here out of this F chord. So my finger is still placed over the C, I'm just not fully pressing down. So now we kind of have the right figure, we have the right sound, we have the right muting happening up to tempo. So I'm going to take our Luther Perkins rhythm guitar figure now. I'm going to play this over a backing track in the key of F. This is a sound-alike of Johnny Cash's probably most famous song here. It's going to be a 1-4-5 progression in F. For my 1 chord, I'm going to be using an E-shape F chord. For my 4 chord, I'm going to use an A-shape B-flat chord. And for the 5 chord, I'm going to use C chord here, open cowboy C chord. So for each one of those chords, I'm going to be alternating between the root and fifth. So for the F, we've already gone over it, but here's a little refresher. For the B flat, I'm only going between the root and fifth here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. For my 5 chord, I'm really only playing the bottom of that C chord, and I'm alternating between the root and fifth. And then back to the 1. Now, I'm also going to be adding in a fill here at the end, and Luther Perkins will use fills to either connect one chord to another or to connect the end of a form back to the top of the form. You got to remember when Luther Perkins uses fills, a lot of his fills and solos are more blues-based, so he's using a lot of minor pentatonic scales, a lot of blues scales rather than major scales or major pentatonic scales. So when I get to fills, I'm going to do more. Playing around with that minor pentatonic more than I would, say, a major pentatonic. All right, I'm going to bring up a track and I'm going to play this. Remember, you have the notation, tab, and backing track, so you're going to want to grab those and also stick around for after this performance because I'm going to talk to you about how you can get this Luther Perkins sound with his rig. Okay, so now you could do that sound on pretty much any guitar and get in the ballpark. With the things that I showed you, that's going to get you in the ballpark of a Luther Perkins sound. And ultimately, that's more useful to you if you're on a gig or at a jam session or recording, that you could get this sound on your guitar and your amp, your strings that you're comfortable with. But for all you purists out there, here's what I would do. I would get an Esquire. Luther Perkins played Esquires for most of his career. He did take a detour and play Jazzmasters and Jaguars for a bit, but he came back to the Esquire. Esquire is a great guitar. It's a little different than a Tele. This pickup selector on my guitar here is set all the way to my right, and what that's doing is bypassing the tone knob, so it's pretty much pick up straight into amp. And that's different than a Telecaster. When you do that and you're bypassing the tone knob, it's a little brighter, it's a little more hi-fi and present, it's got more bite to the attack. It's a thing. The other thing, as I mentioned, was Flatwounds. When I'm doing this and I'm recording in a way where I really want to get this sound, I will throw medium Flatwounds on my guitar. I use D'Addario Flatwounds. When I do that, I recommend those. They're great. All right, so let's talk about amps. On those early Sun Records recordings, Luther Perkins is using a Silvertone 1300 amp, which is, an old low wattage amp with a 10-inch speaker. As you can imagine, these have gotten really expensive because everybody wants to have the same amp that Luther Perkins had and used on all those recordings. So it's not really something that's in reach half the time, unless you get lucky and you find one and somebody doesn't know what they have. But keep in mind, it's a Silvertone amp. So any Silvertone amp from like even like the, later 50s, 60s, any airline amp, any Supro amp, any of those Valco amps, low wattage, 10-inch speaker, it's going to sound great. And it's going to be really close. All right, let's also finish by talking about Slapback, because this is a little pet peeve of mine. I see a lot of videos on a Luther Perkins sound out there, and everybody is adding Slapback to their tone. And I get it, sounds really good, and it makes you think Rockabilly right away, right? But go back and listen to those recordings. There's no Slapback on Luther Perkins' guitar. It's pretty dry. There's not even a lot of room tone. It's pretty dry. It's pretty present. It's pretty in your face. What I think you're hearing, or what a lot of people are hearing, is they're hearing the slapback that's happening on Johnny Cash's vocal, and they're perceiving it to be on more instruments than it really is. It's really just on the vocal. The other thing to keep in mind is you're not really running slapback before an amp. So, you would run that as more of a post effect. That was a whole second tape machine that was set up in the control room, and you would get that delay that would happen that would run from your signal from one machine to the next and then back in, and you would get like a 134 to 137, 8 millisecond delay that would happen. That's what's happening on Johnny Cash's voice, but it's not on the guitar. So if you really want to get close to a sound, you got to play dry. So it's just no slapback on. It's just dry, bright, twangy, in your face. If you do like that sound, that's fine. That's cool when you're recording and you want to add that. Rather than add a pedal in front of your amp, I would say add it as a post effect. After you record the guitar, add slap to it. Or if you have a guitar that has an effects loop, put it in the effects loop, put your delay there. Anything that gets the slapback happening after the preamp of the amplifier rather than hitting the preamp of the amplifier, I think it's going to sound a little bit better. If you want to continue down this path and learn more of these go-to country guitar rhythms, take advantage of that discount down below and pick up my course, 20 must-know country guitar rhythms. Also, if you want to practice everything that we've been doing here in this lesson, remember the notation, tab, and backing track are free, and the links to those are also down below. If you want to show support to this channel, the best way to do that is hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. It's a little thing on your end, but it really does help me grow this channel. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in another video.